generating and transmitting light, we are producing or not producing. But transmission is also a problem. You have multiple companies doing different things in power section, which is not supposed to be. If you are giving somebody this side of the power to produce or to support, it's not to leave it to one company. For example, you want to leave Ally company, you should say Ally, produce the light, transmit the light, collect the money, and collect the money also. Instead of, I will transmit, somebody else will, I will produce, somebody else will transmit, somebody else will collect the money. It makes no sense because it doesn't give people opportunity to know what they're supposed to do. If you are giving, for example, Bauchi, you say, this company, you produce, sell power, you collect the money, you do this in Bauchi, not having multiple parastatals or this to be collecting money, doing that and that. It doesn't make sense to business, as you know, because you, as a business consultant, you will ought to know that people are relying more on generators. People are using their generators all over the world, all over Nigeria. And it is not, it's out of fashion to be using generator and producing goods for manufacturers. It's no longer fashionable because the utilization of generators is no longer good for profit margin. It doesn't work. Please, I would like you to briefly tell the senator what we are going to do in making sure that power is produced and power is transmitted to people of Nigeria. And also, I will join Baba Adin to tell you, give me by timeline, not just by saying I will do it. Tell me from now to 1 year, you will produce, you will do, give President President Bola Tinubu and this Senate a specific time with plans and tell us, we will do this before your re-election in January 16th. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
But I want to state clearly that you are not going for a tea party if, and I'm happy that you struck that chord, if you are deemed fit and cleared by the Senate, your portfolio is not that of a tea party, given the concerns that we have in this sector. And I want to thank my colleagues for allowing you space to offer some insights. I'm one of those who I'm never given to bow and go. We act as a filter here, and it's only the one that it already appears and provides insights that will address a number of concerns for a sector. I recall that much of Nigeria is rural, and I'm interested in how you can assist us in respect of rural electrification in this country. 70% of our space is rural, and a good chunk of it do not have access to power. They are not linked to the grid as it were. So how will you address that concern in which a good part of this country is not linked? A number of Nigerians have not seen the impact of the sector as it were. Then two, there are a number of subnationals who have driven investments for the sector. I'm from Akwa Ibom, and we have Ibom Power in my state. I want to see how your office will collaborate. I'm very impressed that you mentioned one key point when you spoke, the need for collaboration. How will you collaborate with some subnationals who have driven investment in the sector like the Ibom Power in my state? And then the issue of tariffs. How will you drive a framework where tariffs are not seen as oppressive? How can Nigerians have more access to affordable power, as it were? Because a lot of Nigerians are groaning. So I'm also interested in that. But in broad terms, so that I don't take much of my colleagues' time, what are you going to do that is quite different? How do you bring a uniqueness consistent with your profile? What will you do as in bare terms? How will you turn things? How do you drive a process of reform? In bare terms, what are you talking about? What are you talking about so that we can drive the sector effectively, where we can check corruption, check inefficiency, because part of the drawbacks that we have in the sector, in the power sector in Nigeria, have to do with corruption and inefficiency. Some even complained that they pay more for darkness than for light. And that drives part of the concern that we're having. So what will you do? What are you thinking about so that tariffs are not seen as oppressive, so that our rural space, is lit up and Nigerians can breathe a sign of relief? And principally, please, how will you collaborate with the subnationals who are also driving investment in this sector? Thank you.
Mr. President, let me join my colleagues in thanking Mr. President for appointing this eminent personality. I have looked at his resume, and I found him to be eminently qualified for this job. But beyond that, Mr. President, I have my concern. And the concern is that from 1999 to date, we have sunk trillions of naira into power sector. We have done a lot of initiatives to ensure that we have regular and constant power supply in this country. Unfortunately, we are still not out of the wood. I'm happy when he mentioned the main areas, the main problem areas: distribution, transmission, and also generation. Mr. President, he also compared the power sector with the communication sector. And he said the communication sector is now a success story in Nigeria, which is true. It is a success story simply because the telecommunication companies were allowed to charge market reflective tariff. But in the power sector, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, government has not allowed the distribution companies, even the transmission companies, the generation companies to charge market reflective tariff. Instead, there is NBET, which I have seen that he's also an advisor there, where all debts are accumulated and government pay to both the distribution companies and also the gas companies. Mr. President, the issue of market reflective tariff is like an elephant in the room. Unless we take political decisions, strong political decisions, political will to really charge market reflective tariff, we will not solve the power problem because government does not have money to really fund the power sector. I want to hear from the nominee, will he advise the government to charge market reflective tariff in order to make sure that the power sector problem is solved in Nigeria? There is no way we can achieve $1 trillion economy if the power sector remains in comatose. Like one of my colleagues said, power is critical to our development. You cannot manufacture, you cannot